Morning everybody, Kat here. Welcome to the channel. It's about 7:30 in the morning, Saturday, August 31st. 27 years ago today at about this time, we were all waking up to the news that Princess Diana had been killed in a terrible car accident in a tunnel in France in the wee hours of the morning. 27 years. And what's her legacy? What can we what can we say about her? Of course, she was well loved. Her her outreach to the needy, to the broken, to the terminally ill, the landmines, everything she did, and I mean, we know now, she suffered greatly. She had a lot of misery in her life for all kinds of reasons, and but instead of that making her bitter, it just made her reach out more. She really understood the depth of pain that a lot of people were in, and I mean, this was her biggest attribute by far. So, on one hand, that's the legacy that the late Princess Diana has left. That sort of magnanimous spirit of giving that we haven't really seen in the royal family before that or since, really. You know, she was a one off. Absolutely indeed. But there's more to this story. There's more to this story, and it's kind of disturbing because 27 years on, what through her actions and what happened to Diana, what have we learned? We have learned that there is levels of corruption that we never understood within the royal family itself. We have learned that there's corruption that we never understood with the elites, the way they gaslit her, the establishment. She was not a friend of the establishment. They sided with Charles and Camilla. Um, they tried to make us believe she was crazy. They tried to destroy her. Um, and we just have to look. We just have to look at some of the things. Um, Camilla herself was was briefing friends that had contacts within the press. Oh, Diana's crazy. She's this. She's that. Charles had journalists. One of his biggest sort of apologist, Penny Junor. She's written many a book about Charles. She's always been very sympathetic from the beginning. The minute that 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 the they tried to make it sound like she was crazy. They were saying, "Oh, personality disorder." There was high-end journalists and people within the palace briefing that something was wrong with Diana. Camilla was saying this to her press people. Penny Junor went ahead and wrote articles promoting this premise that, oh, Diana's crazy. You know, none of this is true. Diana's crazy. Camilla's a friend. Isn't he allowed to have friends? Come on. You know, everybody covered for Charles and Camilla. And they're friends in the press, they're friends in the establishment, they're friends in journalism, and royal reporters promoted these kinds of things to make Diana look make her look really, really bad. It was shocking and horrible. None of them have ever been held account to this, and even worse. Then we had, um, of course, she wrote the book. She wrote the book with Andrew Morton because she, at the time, and people will say, oh, she was paranoid. Well, looking back, she had reason to be paranoid because there was people plotting against her. Lots of people plotting against her. So anyway, she writes the book because she wants her story out. She's worried about her life. Remember that letter that she sent to not only her butler, but her lawyer and her bodyguard? You know, Charles is planning an accident in my car, brain injury. She knew. She knew. Can you imagine? And people say she was paranoid and crazy. She was fighting for her life. Now, when Martin Bashir comes along, and by the way, the BBC, Martin Bashir, just let it slide. Nothing's ever been done. Martin Bashir comes along. He uses all forms of deception, mocking up bank statements, talking to her brother, saying, oh, terrible things. There are people in her inner circle that are selling secrets, that are spying on her. And look, I've got the proof. Here's some canceled checks. Absolute lies. And you think her brother, he's concerned for her as well. So he goes to Diana and he says, look, I've got all this stuff. This is terrible, and this is what you've been talking about. And what are you going to do? So she agrees to the interview with Martin Bashir because by this time she's terrified. She knows that she's not free and would never be free at this point. And so she speaks to Martin Bashir, and she speaks quite frankly about a lot of topics. And it was all a ruse. Martin Bashir's behavior, his criminal behavior, terrified the princess. Now we come to today, and it's like Prince William says, oh, I never want to see that interview again. It should never be aired again because it was done under duress. She was manipulated, and it was just wrong. But you know what? I disagree. I disagree because there are some things in there that do show her real emotion. And I think it's important. You can't whitewash history. You can't put it away in a box and pretend it didn't happen. What should be happening as a result of that interview, justice should be done. Even though everybody knew about it. I think all that's happened is the BBC, I don't know, paid William some millions to let's never discuss this again. Nobody at the BBC, Martin Bashir, nobody's ever been held accountable for the travesty that was done with that interview, the damage that was done, the fear it put into Diana, the gaslighting, the feeding into her paranoia, frightening her, making her fear for her life. Nothing's ever happened to Bashir. Nothing's ever been. There's never been. The only criminal charges ever laid regarding this whole incident were against the freelance graphic artist that Martin Bashir hired to mock up documents that he showed originally to Earl Spencer and then were passed along to Diana. These were fakes. And this guy had been a contract worker with the BBC. He'd worked with them before to, do props for shows and things like that. So this is all he thought it was. Well, so when it all came out that these documents were not real, he's the one they went after. It took him 20 years to clear his name and for the story to come out and that, he was commissioned and paid for the BBC to do this upon Martin Bashir's, urging him to, these are the documents that we need, right? Was Martin Bashir ever charged with, forging documents or lies or nothing. And even a few years ago when this kind of bubbled up to the surface again, Martin Bashir, he's ill and gee, we've got a duty of care and nothing's ever been done. There's never been a satisfactory conclusion of this whole thing. Just like there's never been a satisfactory conclusion, even after 2 inquiries. The official narrative of her death, doesn't add up. That's why you call it the official narrative. There's so much evidence of other things going on. And it's been shut down. The picture in the thumbnail, all of them in the car and Diane is looking out the back. The driver in the spotlight. Trevor Reese-Jones in that picture isn't wearing his seatbelt because security personnel, they don't wear their seatbelt. So in case they have to react very quickly, they can, right? Well, interestingly, in a frame a couple of seconds later, there is a shot of him wearing his seatbelt. So he knew something was about to happen. And they say, Diana and Dodie weren't wearing their seatbelts. Well, if you do any research at all, you will discover that car that they were in 2 weeks prior had been sent out for some repairs, and it came back. Those seatbelts were actually jammed. Diana always used a seatbelt. Those seatbelts were jammed. She could not use them. It was a setup, folks. And even the picture we look at the picture that I've posted in the thumbnail. How'd they get that? Because there was one camera in the tunnel working before they hit the pillar. Every other camera in the Pont d'Alma tunnel was disabled. Can you imagine? How does that happen? All the cameras just go out at once. And this terrible thing happens. Oh my, what a coincidence. There are no accidents. We can get into all that another time, but back to our remembering Diana and her legacy. She taught us that there was corruption everywhere, and she spent her lifetime, short as it was, fighting against it. Whether it be landmines, whether it be poverty, you know? She she tried to make a difference. She did make a difference. She did make a difference. She did, like her association with oh, let's just Mother Teresa. And we say, oh, look at that, two generous women, one rich, one poor. They're both doing, God's work, helping the sick and the poor and the destitute. Well, don't you know? And I mean, had Diana lived, I think things would have been very difficult for her, because she would come to find out just how she was being used by everybody. Mother Teresa was not a saint. Mother Teresa, which is, for example, just one little thing. Let's just take one little thing when Mother Teresa won the Nobel Prize, right? $250,000, I think it was at that time. And her slum hospital, cots in the mud, no medicine, bringing people there to die, and she'd hold their hands because there was nothing else they could do. $250,000, she couldn't buy a fucking bedpan. She couldn't buy medicine. No, nothing changed. That money did not go towards helping the sick that her and the Sisters of Mercy were supporting unto their death. No. They all died in the mud, in the cots, with no medicine, no intervention. Like it was a noble thing to do to have Mother Teresa hover over you. Where did that money go? That money was donated to the Democratic Party in the United States. You don't believe me? Look it up. So even though Diana thought she was okay, I'm a humanitarian. I want to help people. I want to help the sick and the dying, and what a better role model than Mother Teresa. Look at the work she's doing for the poorest people on the planet, right? Diana would have come to find out how corrupt that really was. Diana would have come to find out just how corrupt Tony Blair was at the time, where she was just starting to forge a relationship with the new prime minister. Diana would have come to find out just how she was being used. Sad. Very sad. So in a way, as rough as it was for her, maybe it's better. Maybe it's better she was taken out while she was doing good, before the corruption took a hold of her as well. 27 years on, we know she's not a saint. We understand her frailties. But because she was honest about it, that's why I think she's still so beloved and missed. Because we got a sense of there's a real person in there. She wasn't taken over by the corruption, even though it was pushing at her, So, I mean, that I think what we can look at is, like, what we can take away from it, I guess, is even in the face of adversity that you can't imagine, there's still opportunity for you to make a difference in the world. And I think if everybody kind of had that attitude and had that ambition, things would be a lot better. I want to know what you think. Send me a comment. Let me know your feelings on Princess Diana and this anniversary. Like, subscribe, share this video, and we'll see you soon. Take care, everybody.